Shaquille O'Neal saying that if you switch Kobe with T-Mac, he would still have won 3 NBA championships.
When you guys put Nike socks on, do you fold them down or you just pull them down?
I pull them down.
You pull them down?
I usually get mid-cut socks or,
I have a lot of high socks.
I have a lot of high, and I'm a folder. I fold them.
I fold them.
But recent current events is that Shaq said that if you replace Kobe with T-Mac, he would win 3 championships. And this is coming after a barrage of just Kobe Bryant being the headline and the talking point of the basketball community, especially this offseason. I feel like it's taken over with Bleacher Report leaving him outside of their top 10. And then with just all these hypotheticals regarding Kobe, if you put him in this situation, in that situation, he played with Shaq, he did this, and he did that. And I just think the Kobe Bryant disrespect is getting out of hand. I think that Kobe Bryant silenced all of the doubt that people are now revisiting 20 years later during his career. Because sure, in 2005 to 2007, you could have said Kobe Bryant played with Shaq when Shaq went to the Miami Heat and the Heat won a championship. And although Dwayne Wade after game 2 averaged 39 points and carried Shaq, and Shaq averaged 13 and 10 for the entirety of that series and was not himself, and it was Dwayne Wade who did the heavy lifting, you could have said, you see, even a Shaq who wasn't the best player in the world was able to win a championship with a young up-and-coming guard. And that just goes to show that, Kobe benefited from Shaq, especially in those seasons where the Lakers weren't good. They were getting out in the first round. That could have been fuel. But then Kobe gets Paul Gasol. And then from 2008 to 2010, they go to 3 straight NBA finals, and they go back-to-back in 2009 and 2010. And the Lakers beat one of the super teams of that era in the Boston Celtics in 7 games after being down 3-2 in the 2010 NBA Finals. So I think that Kobe Bryant shut down that noise when he played, because Kobe Bryant won more championships as the man without Shaq than Shaq won as the man without Kobe. Shaq had Penny Hardaway. It did not succeed. They went to the finals and they lost, but they won the championship. And Penny Hardaway was an exceptional player. With the Lakers, it wasn't until Kobe Bryant developed to where they became a team that was able to three-peat. And then with the Heat, you win with Dwayne Wade. And then he also played with Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire, and they got eliminated in the first round. Kobe Bryant, I just feel like shut down a lot of this noise during his career. But I also think that it is crazy that what he did as a second option, and I know Shaq was the best player in the world at that point, but it wasn't like Kobe's just a clear-cut second option. I mean, the last 2 championships they won together, he was an MVP candidate. He was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. This was as 1A, 1B as you can get. And I think more than anybody, I'm disappointed in Shaq because I feel like he should be protecting Kobe's legacy. I think if you accomplish something with somebody special and you guys have a dynasty, you guys are a dynasty, you preserve that. You think that this is the person I did it with, and I couldn't imagine doing it with anybody else. And I would think Shaq just shuts down those conversations, because the Morris twins on that very same podcast said that there's something about Kobe's mentality that you cannot replace. And it was very vital. And Shaq, either it's because of, I don't think it's disrespecting Kobe on his end. I think it's more so propping his own ego up. Like, he was so good, he could have done it even without Kobe Bryant. But as somebody that has ranked Kobe second all time, which Shaq did, I just don't know how you can have that same type of logic to where you think he's the second best player to ever play the game of basketball, yet he could have been replaced and you could have won 3 NBA championships if he was replaced. I just don't get the logic.
Yeah, I think, because you mentioned it, was in Orlando. They made the finals, but he lost to Hakeem. Hakeem outplayed him. First couple years when Kobe was ascending, they did make the WCF, lost to Karl Malone and them. Then Kobe ascended, they started to win and stuff like that. I think it is a little bit more of him propping himself up. I also think it's just a little bit of more people overrating Tracy McGrady.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a big thing of just people trying to make it seem like, and of course I was like 4, but like people like to go back, and I love AI, I've watched AI. People try to make it seem like T-Mac was on AI and Kobe's level at that time. I don't think that's quote unquote true. I also don't think you can just plot one guy in and then just assume that this thing's will work. Like, Kobe Bryant was an exceptional playoff performer. Kobe Bryant was taking over games when Shaq was choking it up. Kobe Bryant was taking over fourth quarters when Shaq wasn't playing good. Tracy McGrady wasn't this uplifter that was winning multiple playoff series. Like, he was good. Yeah, he was good. He was great. He was great. He can get the team to the playoffs, but he wasn't this leader Kobe was. Like you mentioned, he didn't have the mentality Kobe was. He wasn't the same defender Kobe was at all. You know, he had the quote unquote the same skill set, but he wasn't a better player than Kobe. And I think Shaq, like you mentioned, Shaq saying that it was just him, his ego, Shaq's ego's through the roof. Like, Shaq thinks the world of himself, and he should. He's one of the most dominant players of all time, top 3 peak ever. You couldn't stop him at the peak of his powers. But I just seen a lot of stuff going on where people are just like, I think for me personally, if you don't have Kobe in your top 10, right? All right. If you have a solid argument for it, okay. There's like 15 to 20 guys you can argue top 10. Like, the NBA is so talented and whatnot. If you have Kobe in your top 10, it's fine. If you have Kobe in your top 5, it's fine. I think the problem that, like, it bothers me when we start lying. And I think the lying becomes a little bit too much because all it is hypothetical. If you do this, there's no way you think in your right mind you're three-peating if you have T-Mac instead of Kobe Bryant. Like, to go up against Tim Duncan, to go up against the Sacramento Kings and Chris Webber and them boys. Like, I don't know if T-Mac has that willpower, that mentality, that game, like, to just take over like Kobe Bryant did, because he didn't do it in his own regime with the Orlando Magic in playoff series in the first round. Like, even Allen Iverson went to the finals with a mediocre team that's probably a similar level team than T-Mac had. Allen Iverson was able to propel them to the finals. You couldn't even do what AI did. So for me, I just think Shaq, he says a lot of things, and he's never consistent. You know, I feel like all those old guys, I've heard Scottie Pippen call MJ and LeBron the GOAT every other year. These old guys just are very not consistent, and it is unfortunate because, like Jamal mentioned, it's been a lot of nasty shit going on with Kobe's name. I mean, like, I saw a dude on Twitter tell me Michael Finley could win with Shaquille O'Neal. And Michael Finley was when I drew the line. What the fuck are you talking about with Michael Finley? With all due respect.
Third best player.
Yeah, like, good player. But then it puts you in a tough position because now you have to disrespect these good players because you're trying to disrespect one of the greatest players.
He was really good. On the T-Mac front, he was a really good floor raiser for those Orlando teams. He led their offenses to being some of the better to best in the NBA in all those years. He was also never the floor raiser, or was never the ceiling raiser that Kobe was. And there's definitely a part of T-Mac that wishes he had that same opportunity because he was very close to playing with Tim Duncan until Tim Duncan eventually pulled out from signing with the Magic. And so for that reason, I understand as an athlete, you compare yourself to other people and you say, maybe I didn't have the same opportunity, but there are many stretches in T-Mac's career where I think back to 2009 with that Rocket team where he gets injured, he misses the entire postseason, and the team was good enough. He just wasn't available. And I felt like that oftentimes is what decides the legacies of players because the NBA is the survival of the fittest. And if you're not available in the later stage of the season, then ultimately all these what-ifs don't matter because your body didn't hold up anyways. And Kobe's, on the other hand, it was the exact opposite until 2013 when he tore his Achilles, where Kobe, year after year, was leading those Laker teams, awesome floor raiser, consistently in the MVP discussion. He wins MVP in 2008, and then he brings into the finals 3 straight years. So Kobe showed to not only be the floor raiser, but also the ceiling raiser. And I feel that's the difference. 2000, you could say, yeah, if you, in theory, in a perfect world, put Tracy McGrady next to Shaquille O'Neal, they can absolutely win a championship. No doubt about it. But in 2000, when T-Mac was, at that point in time, in his 3rd year in the Raptors, realistically, I don't see him as number 2, instead of Kobe Bryant going ahead and beating that Jailblazers Portland team in the conference finals and win a championship that season. So I feel like there's definitely a line to play with a lot of athletes where
I see you one. I can see 1.
Not 3.
Yeah, but in 2000, I don't see you that early in T-Mac's career.
And this is the thing with, you know, people want to just throw in hypotheticals but not be truthful about the situation because Tracy McGrady, 4th year with the Raptors, Vince Carter is an all-NBA level player. He is stamped. In that first round, they play the Knicks, and they struggle. The Knicks had the 6th best defensive rating in the NBA that year, and they get swept. Tracy McGrady struggles from the field. He struggles shooting. He averages 16. But that year, Tracy McGrady for the year, when he started the second half of the season, he averaged about 16 to 17 per game. And the reason why he left the Raptors, he left his cousin to go to Orlando is because he wanted to play closer to home, which was Orlando, and he wanted more opportunity and more volume. Kobe Bryant did not have the green light from day one. Kobe Bryant, when he was 17 years old, 18 years old, did not get on the floor. Exactly. The coach was not playing him. And was Tracy McGrady, if he was put in that situation, would he be able to withstand that? Would he be able to withstand not playing and waiting on an opportunity and finally getting called up? Mm-hmm. He wanted more volume and more touches. Would he have been happy deferring to Shaq the way that Kobe Bryant did? There's a lot of things when it comes to the mentality and what Kobe had to endure early on with being patient with his opportunity. And even that year, the 99-2000 season, Kobe finished 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. And when you look at the Game 6 and Game 7 of the conference finals, that they had to beat a Blazers team with Sabonis, with Stoudemire, with Scottie Pippen. I mean, it was an awesome Blazers team. Rasheed Wallace. When you look at that team, Kobe in Game 6 and Game 7, he averaged 29 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 3.5 blocks per game. In Game 6 and 7 of that series in the conference finals, Shaq averaged 18, 10, and 5, 48% from the field in the last 2 games. The last 2 games of that series, Kobe Bryant was by far and away the better player. And in Game 7, when Shaq only took 9 shots, Kobe was the one that willed them to victory. If it had not been for Kobe, they would have not won the NBA championship that year. They would have not gone to the NBA finals.
I believe that. Wins the championship.
They probably do. And, does Tracy McGrady have that same mentality that Kobe had to where the best player is struggling and I'm going to will the team to victory? Because the thing with Kobe Bryant is not that just we saw him win as a sidekick. We saw him win as the best player on his team. We saw him go to 3 straight NBA finals. All those Tracy McGrady choke jobs in the playoffs that he had with the Magic, with the Rockets, and people say, oh, you can nitpick bad Kobe Bryant playoff game performances. Oh yeah, you can, but they're few and far between because he won with and without Shaq. So, I think if the 99-2000 season, Kobe wasn't even Kobe. Mac wasn't even T-Mac. I don't think they win a championship that year. You can make a better argument for the following seasons, but who knows how well T-Mac and Shaq mesh with their personalities.
They definitely don't beat the Pistons, so we could throw that year out
the window. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it as to why I just feel like Kobe Bryant is the only player that we're putting in these hypothetical situations and trying to remove it and diminish his legacy. I look at like the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant. Like no player on that team has come out and said that we would have won championships without Kevin Durant. You put Paul George instead of KD, we still win those championships. Maybe it might be true. Maybe people would believe it. Maybe people do. Maybe people do believe it. But that's also a more extreme example because that was a 73-win team that went and got Kevin Durant.
They still never say it.
The Lakers was Kobe, Shaq, and then some role guys. But it was really just Kobe, Shaq dependent. But when you go to battle with somebody for so long and you have such ultimate respect for them, you don't just go and say that somebody else in that same situation would do the same thing. I agree.
They don't. The Boston's big 4, they don't go out saying we to win with this guy or this guy. Steph and KD and Draymond, they all openly, I'm not winning without him. We're not winning without KD. I'm not winning without those guys. It's a mutual respect. I think LeBron, the big 3, they don't go out there. LeBron may say his team wasn't that good, but he's not going out there. I don't win with another player if I just plug out D-Wade out somebody else. And like there's a certain bond you build when you just go through an 80-game season and then you go through the mud of the playoffs and you win and then you go do it again. Like it builds a certain bond with families and stuff like that. And I think it's different too with Kobe and Shaq because they had beef, like real life rift. And you saw that towards the later years. So it may not be all peaches and cream. They did mend the relationship, but it might not be the same brotherly love, brotherhood that we think it is just because they play together. A lot of guys don't be friends when they be on the same team. And I remember Jeff Teague was talking about on his podcast when he was in Indiana, him and Paul George didn't speak. Like they would get on the court, they'd play this, that, and third, but they didn't speak outside of that. So you would think like eventually they talk, but you would think like just because you're on the team, like obviously we do a podcast, we're best friends, we're bros. Podcasting is different, but like it would be like kind of weird if we just go out there and I'd be like, yo, this show would be so much better if it didn't have Dells and if it had somebody else like.
Paul George must have just been really heartbroken that they traded George Hill. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, he did love George Hill. He did love George Hill.
What you mentioned is that, when you build somebody, you want to preserve what their role in building that was. And Kobe had such a major role in that. I would, I can't speak for Shaq, but what I would have liked Shaq to say is just like nobody's Kobe. Is T-Mac Kobe? No,
he be saying that shit sometimes,
won.
but then he'll say shit like, this.
Exactly. Like there's moments where he says Kobe's the greatest thing ever, and then it's like, oh yeah, you don't think I could have won with this guy? Like,
it goes to just the relationship though. Like their relationship was always rocky, so it doesn't surprise me that he has these opinions where, like you said, some days Kobe Bryant's the second best player of all time, and other days like, oh, we could, replace him with T-Mac. That's why I look at like, obviously being a Celtics fan, KG and Paul Pierce. Like you see them now after the fact, they're still homies. They're doing a podcast together. They're going to the Celtics arena together and chopping up with Missoula and stuff like that. You're never at any point going to see KG or Paul Pierce, even though it's true. Be like, shit, if we had Kobe instead of Paul, or if we had Tim Duncan instead of KG, they could say that and be true. But they created such a bond with each other that why am I going to go out of my way to say something, even if it might be true? And the T-Mac is like, it's probably not true. Like if Shaq was like, you know what, like, yeah, me and Kobe, we got 3. If we had T-Mac shit, maybe we get one. Maybe we get one. It's like, all right, that feels like something that's reasonable, even though what's the point of saying it? And it feels like, since it's so long after the fact that Shaq and Kobe eventually repaired their relationship, and especially after like Shaq talked at his like the ceremony they had at the Staples Center and whatnot after Kobe passed, that they would be beyond this, and any conversation that came up about Kobe, it feels so easy, right? It feels so simple, like, oh no, Kobe was my best teammate ever. He's a top 2-3 player, whatever you want to say, and that's that. To make this big ordeal and like say these things, like for Bleacher Report to do it, we create content. We know what could get clicks. We know if we say this shit, oh, it's very easy for Bleacher Report, because you're right, Riv, like, you can make the argument for a lot of players to be in the top 10, right? And you can make the argument that Kobe shouldn't be outside the top 10, even though I think majority of people would have him inside. But if you're a Bleacher Report, at the end of the day, what matters to you, you want to get clicks, you want to get views, that's how you get paid. I get it. Everyone's got a job to do. Put him at 11. It's gonna start debate and whatnot. Shaq, you're $100 million heir. You got maybe a billionaire with all the ads and shit you do. You don't gotta need any clicks, right? You just gotta tell your truth. So it's weird.
Yeah, I think it's weird because I get it. Somebody's supposed to be a brother, right? Somebody's supposed to be a guy you consider a brother. Like I obviously at a smaller scale, I'll be on Twitter and somebody can be like, "Yo, you're dog shit." Like you're Dells, Drew. They're better than you. I'm on Twitter commenting, they are better than me. They are lit. They're so far. Like, that's just natural propping your brothers up. This dude be up here on some shit like, you don't think, like really just diminishing what he's done with Kobe. And I think that's such a crazy dynamic that we have. And I feel like, Dels, you've been talking about it, just like it being so different from the NFL scene, where it's just like, I feel like it's such a lack of respect in the NBA scene, just from certain GOATs, certain all-time players, from players that have played to like the fans and stuff.
Like the biggest example is like the Eagles stuff going on with Hurts right now. None of the players are even former come out and say like, yeah, replace him and they could have still won. There's still people that do it that are fans, but people that are like Philly ingrained, that are part of the city, that are part of the fandom.
There's a deeper bond in football.
Yeah, like they cherish that role that he played. And like, I mean, you could have Shaq and Mac, give me Kobe and Duncan and they running the table.
11.
Like people talk about replace Kobe with Tracy McGrady, replace Shaq with Tim Duncan, the Lakers 3-peat.
Yeah, because the frustration for all those years was Shaq waiting in 2002 to get his surgery until the season started, so he wouldn't have to recover in the offseason. He could have his offseason, and then year by year, especially by like 01, 02, Shaq starting to balloon and not taking care of his body to a point where, as Kobe says all the time, if Shaq was healthy, would have won effing this many championships. And he's to a degree right about that, because Shaq could have had a little bit more of a longer peak had he had taken better care of his body, I believe. But I guess the last thought that I had was, you mentioned that, Tracy McGrady left Toronto to get a bigger role in Orlando. Well, Kobe stayed in Los Angeles. In 98, they were a 61-win team, and they had 2 All-Stars on the perimeter, Eddie Jones, Nick Van Exel. And he had to earn his playing time by beating those guys out and ultimately pushing them out of town. And then 2 years later, he was the one taking them from getting swept by the Jazz and swept by the Spurs to being the Spurs back-to-back years in 2001 and 2002, and then ultimately going to 3 straight championships. So there's definitely a level of like Kobe kind of pushing through on a better team. He definitely deserves more credit than he receives for that.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like
you're wrong.
Whoa.
I feel like what we see in the public, or up until Kobe tragically passed, I feel like most of it came from Shaq's camp belittling Kobe rather than the opposite. And if Kobe was talking about Shaq, it was most of the stuff John was talking about how he wasn't taking care of his body.
That's all Kobe said.
Because if I'm Kobe, and of course my mentality, everything like that, it's got to piss you off to be like, I'm in here every single day, working. You see what Shaq has, his natural ability. If you just put in half the work I do,
that Shaq
Kobe could have gone up there every single day after him and Shaq departed, or even after they retired, and being like, man, if Shaq would have stayed with it and really shit on him consistently. But again, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like it always came from Shaq's part when he was more at fault for why things didn't last as long rather than the opposite.
Kobe hated that Shaq was lazy. Hated because Kobe obviously extremely worked hard. It was. I think Kobe came out and said this a few times when they were playing together. Like he would try to come out and get Shaq to work out with him, and Shaq would be like, "Nah, I'm going to this party and stuff like that." So
yeah,
I think Shaq just naturally gifted. Obviously came out the league came out of college 25-12. Like he walked in top 10 player in the league. Like he was that good early on. Sometimes that that gives you a little big headed at times.
I know it's definitely semantics. I hate saying lazy because the fact that Shaq was like such a superstar. In movies, he's acting, and to a point, felt like with each championship, especially by 2002, it was more so a matter of Shaq just feeling like maybe not on top of the world, but kind of satisfied.
He just
with
enjoyed
what
his
he'd
life.
done on the court, exactly. And so, being such a celebrity in that status, I feel like he enjoyed that limelight, so to speak, more. Whereas Kobe was maybe putting more prep. Not maybe, he was putting more prep when the lights weren't off.
He said the self-awareness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to be like, I got my 3 chips, I understand what I did, I wasn't 100% committed. Have the self-awareness to do it, but don't go and try to discredit one of, if not the most hardest working player, in NBA history.
Top 2 for sure.
You can't replace Kobe's role in that. It's funny because the other day I was looking at I was playing 2K and Kobe Bryant is 32 years old in 2K11, and I'm looking at the years pro section of it, and it says 15 years pro, and the league was so much different back then. I'm like, this guy's 32 and was in the league for 15 years. He came into the league at 17 years old, like. Coming to the league back then, being so young, when a lot of players did it. Kobe was one of the youngest ever, though, at 17 to come into the league. And, the type of grind it takes to, like, imagine being a 17-year-old and you're in the NBA and you're playing for the Lakers. Like, it's a different type of pressure. And you mentioned the dunking stuff with Shaq, like, 98, 99, when the Spurs won the championship, they beat the Lakers in the playoffs, and Tim Duncan averaged 29 and 13. And
was it 98, 99, or 99, 2000?
99, 2000, the Lakers won a championship. Yeah. It was the year before. Tim Duncan averaged 29 and 13, and he gave it to Shaq. Like, Shaq got thoroughly outplayed by Tim Duncan, and that was a Tim Duncan that wasn't even in his, like, you could say it was his prime because that's really the peak Duncan years from like 99 to like
he walked
04.
In like that.
Yeah, that was like third season Tim Duncan, and he was just thoroughly outplayed Shaquille O'Neal, beating them and advancing in the NBA playoffs. So like Shaq needed Kobe to develop to get the success that the Lakers eventually got, and I don't feel like the role that
you always need
should be diminished.
You always need that number 2, man. Whether it's a high-end guy, a complimentary guy.
Someone who steps up.
Somebody who's just like Steph, for example. His guy's Klay. He's just a guy who's complimentary in his skill set.
Giannis had fucking Middleton.
Giannis, Middleton. Middleton isn't this top 10 guy, but he complements what Giannis does. Kobe, Pau Gasol wasn't a top 10 guy, top 5 guy, but great player, complimentary guy. You just need a guy that can just complement your game. And if you got that and you're one of those dudes like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, he's not a top 5, top 10 guy, Jalen Williams, but you just need somebody who is going to have your back, can give other teams exactly what you need.
It almost feels like Kobe. He just when he was alive, he just had a better bond with Pau Gasol than he had with Shaq.
Oh, they were.
Yeah.
Woo!
Like that was like
I think that's
those two.
I think that's the daughter's godfather.
Yeah, like those two had a serious bond that is just irreplaceable.
Even Kobe and Lamar, like Lamar Odom, like they were really, really like Kobe. Lamar has spoken about how Kobe has saved him from a lot of stuff. Obviously, we're not gonna, but like he saved him from a shit ton of stuff.
Yeah, like you don't see Kobe going out here when he was alive and saying like, yeah, you replace Pau Gasol with Carlos Boozer and we still win. Like that's not happening.
Kobe was very
because
appreciative
it's an appreciation for his role in that, and that's just something that Shaq lacked that I wish he had.
Sometimes, like you have those certain older players who retire and they're done with the game. All they do like Jordan, for example. Yeah. He doesn't really talk too much. Like
at all. Really.
His very respect is I didn't play guys in front of me. I didn't play guys after me. I just speak on what I did in my era. I wish I would have played them. These guys are great now. Kobe, when he retired, very appreciative of the new era coming up. Very appreciative of the skill we
A
have.
savant of the game.
Yeah,
he was
like,
trying to push the game forward.
100%. I think certain guys you get who are comfortable in what they've done, who they are. You can see it in the way they treat the game now. These guys now,
like Shaq's not pushing the game forward. Like,
he's not.
Look
Him,
at
Charles
his
Barkley,
comments.
like, they're not doing
Like,
that.
look at his
Inside
comments
NBA
about
shit, yeah.
Rudy Gobert. Look at his comments about Dwight Howard, Donovan Mitchell at a point in time. You know, he's
the
not
Rudy
pushing the
Gobert
game
shit
forward.
is what you're talking about. Shaq.
Yeah.
He had some comments about Rudy Gobert recently that was like, Shaq.
That he would wear a dress if Rudy Gobert got into the Hall of Fame.
He was like, "You a big man, play like a big man." Enough with this. And he was talking
Rudy
about
Gobert's
Jokic.
getting the Hall of Fame.
Rudy Gobert is so getting
Yeah,
it.
he's 100% making the Hall of Fame, and I was just
Shaq's
like,
gonna be there. Fuck, like
Yeah.
mad as hell.
maybe when I was like a 12-year-old kid, I would find this funny, but like now I look at it, I just feel like
not
He's a
funny.
grown man.
you don't see this
He's mad
in
old.
other sports. You don't see this in football. You don't see this in baseball. You don't see this. We're talking about Carson from Nerd Sesh. You don't see this in tennis. Sports like that, the legends in the past uplift the current players. And then today you have Shaq like viscerally attacking an all-time player. And that I think is bad for the game.